fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson was one of the most anticipated matchups in recent boxing history, a clash that would ultimately reveal the difference between a legend of the sport and a celebrity fighter. Jake Paul, a YouTube star with a 9-1 record built on carefully selected opponents, finally met his match when he stepped into the ring with the formidable Mike Tyson. Known for handpicking older and less experienced fighters, Paul took a step too far when he agreed to fight Tyson, a man whose name alone is synonymous with power, fear, and the true spirit of boxing. The lead-up to the fight was a spectacle in itself. Fans were eager to see how Paul would fare against the former heavyweight champion, despite the fact that Tyson was now 58 years old. At 27, with a height advantage of 6'1" and a weight of 200 pounds, Paul seemed to have the physical upper hand over the 5'10" Tyson, who weighed 220 pounds. However, boxing is much more than just height and weight. It's a sport of skill, experience, and heart, all areas in which Tyson held an overwhelming edge. As the bell rang to start the fight, it became evident that Paul was in over his head. Tyson, despite his age, moved with the same agility and purpose that had made him a feared champion in his prime. His footwork was sharp, his head movement quick, and his punches devastating. From the very start, Tyson applied relentless pressure, closing the distance between them and working on Paul's body with punishing shots. Paul, who had built his career fighting opponents he could dominate, was visibly uncomfortable. He tried to keep Tyson at bay with his jab, but Tyson's head movement made it impossible for Paul to land any meaningful shots. Within the first minute, it was clear Paul was in survival mode, clinging to Tyson in clinches to avoid the relentless assault. The fight had quickly turned into a one-sided affair, with Tyson dictating the pace and Paul scrambling to stay on his feet. The end came swiftly and brutally. After absorbing several powerful body shots, Paul attempted a wild right hand, hoping to catch Tyson off guard. But Tyson, ever the seasoned tactician, dodged the punch and unleashed a devastating right hand of his own. The punch connected flush with Paul's jaw, sending him crumpling to the canvas, unconscious before he even hit the ground. The referee didn't bother with a count. The fight was over. The knockout, occurring just 2 minutes and 32 seconds into the first round, was a reminder of the vast gulf in skill and experience between a true legend of the sport and a celebrity fighter. Tyson's victory was not just a win for him, but a statement about the sport of boxing itself. For too long, many felt that the rise of social media influencers like Paul had turned boxing into a spectacle where fame and views mattered more than talent and dedication. Tyson's decisive win was a reminder that boxing is not a game, and true greatness in the ring cannot be manufactured. Jake Paul's defeat was humbling, not just for him, but for the legion of fans who had bought into the hype surrounding his boxing career. The loss exposed the limitations of Paul's strategy of cherry-picking opponents and relying on his fame to generate interest in his fights. Against a real fighter like Tyson, Paul's lack of experience and skill was laid bare for all to see. The bravado and trash talk that had characterized his pre-fight persona now seemed hollow in the face of such a decisive loss. For Paul, the knockout was a sobering moment. He had entered the ring with confidence, buoyed by a 9-1 record and the belief that he could continue his transition from internet fame to boxing stardom. But Tyson's punch had shattered that illusion. Paul now found himself at a crossroads: continue chasing spectacle fights against hand-picked opponents, or take a step back and truly dedicate himself to improving as a boxer. If he wanted to be taken seriously in the sport, Paul would need to demonstrate a level of commitment and humility that he had yet to show. For Mike Tyson, this fight was much more than just another win. It was a triumphant return to the ring, a reminder that even at 58 years old, he still possessed the power, skill, and ring IQ that had made him one of the most feared fighters in history. Tyson's performance that night was a reaffirmation of his legacy, a highlight reel knockout that will be replayed and analyzed by boxing fans for generations. The fight also reignited discussions within the boxing community about the ethics of pairing older fighters like Tyson against younger opponents. While Tyson's victory was celebrated by many, it also raised concerns about the potential dangers of such matchups. Tyson may have won convincingly, but the risk of injury was always present, and had the fight gone differently, the consequences could have been serious. In the aftermath of the fight, the impact of Tyson's win was felt across the boxing world. For those who had grown disillusioned with the sport, tired of exhibition matches and celebrity bouts, Tyson's victory was a breath of fresh air. It was a reminder of what boxing is supposed to be, a test of skill, endurance, and heart, where the best fighters rise to the top based on their ability, not their fame or social media following. Tyson's performance that night was a throwback to an earlier era of boxing, one where the sport's greatest names were defined by their achievements between the ropes, not outside of them. For Jake Paul, the loss was a pivotal moment in his career. He had built his brand on the idea that he could transition from internet fame to legitimate boxing success, but Tyson's knockout had shattered that narrative. If Paul wanted to be taken seriously in the boxing world, he would need to go back to the drawing board and dedicate himself to the craft in a way he hadn't before. The fight also had broader implications for the sport of boxing itself. As more social media influencers venture into combat sports, Tyson's victory served as a stark reminder of the difference between entertainment and real competition. Boxing is not just about making money or generating views. It is a sport with a rich history and a set of values that have been built up over centuries. Tyson's win was a call to return to those values, to remember that the ring is a place where true fighters earn their place, not just another stage for internet celebrities to boost their brand. In the end, the fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson was about much more than just two men stepping into the ring. It was a clash of generations, of ideals, and of approaches to the sport of boxing. Tyson's victory was a testament to the enduring power of experience and skill, a reminder that while the world may change, some things remain the same. In boxing, as in life, true greatness is earned, not given. And on that night, Mike Tyson showed the world that he is and always will be one of the greatest fighters to ever lace up the gloves. The fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson was one of the most anticipated matchups in recent boxing history, a clash that would ultimately reveal the difference between a legend of the sport and a celebrity fighter. Jake Paul, a YouTube star with a 9-1 record built on carefully selected opponents, finally met his match when he stepped into the ring with the formidable Mike Tyson. Known for handpicking older and less experienced fighters, Paul took a step too far when he agreed to fight Tyson, a man whose name alone is synonymous with power, fear, and the true spirit of boxing. The lead-up to the fight was a spectacle in itself. Fans were eager to see how Paul would fare against the former heavyweight champion, despite the fact that Tyson was now 58 years old. At 27, with a height advantage of 6'1" and a weight of 200